Great. Hi, New York. Good to meet you
Hello
again.
back. Hello.
Thank you for joining today session Upgrade or Migrate to Exchange 2016. December ending holidays. Hope everybody is doing great. Um, Sorry for the audio issue or the video issue. And this is myself, Prabhat Nigam, Microsoft MVP. I write my blog at msexchangeguru.com. Currently holding the position of CTO and Chief Architect at Golden 5 Consulting. I am a blogger, speaker, author. That's my Twitter handle and my email address. All right. The agenda is blank. There's no agenda. Actually, I'm kidding. Um, this is an overview of the session. On-premise versus cloud. What's new for Exchange 2010? What's new from Exchange 2010? I wanted to say in that way. But for if you are Exchange 2010, that's for you. That what is new for Exchange 2010? What's new for Exchange 2013? Um, Exchange 2016 features. Upgrade to Exchange 2016. Migration to Exchange 2016. Removal of legacy Exchange server, and summary. That's it. Then you can go. Um, so starting with the cloud versus exchange discussion, I know we have been discussing every day this thing, and it's never-ending discussion. So the way I see it, the cloud has no exchange server. If you go for the cloud, you don't have to be worried about exchange server. You can access your messaging system from anywhere. You can access your email servers from anywhere. Basically, not the servers, but the mailbox, the front end API. So, no outage possible, no updates, um, no spam. I mean, all that management is taken care by Microsoft. I mean, spam may come, but still, it's much better. You don't have to worry about updating the spam guard or um, worry about more of the spam because Microsoft is involving a big team to take care of the spams. Alright, 24 by 7 support. You don't have to worry about the support of the Exchange server has gone down. Oh, I have to wake up my team and everything. Um, Free support tickets. If you have Office 365, you can create some free tickets from there and they can come back to support your setup. Um, the only issue is data in Microsoft's hand. If you have to take the backup, then probably you have to look for a third party which can take the backup from your Office 365 application, and that backup application will definitely take all the rights to get in and take out all the data. Little hard or confusing how the backup will be done, and um, you would not know even if your Exchange server is down, or because if there's any delay or something, unless you see an issue, and because you don't have any monitoring set up, you can set up some kind of monitoring third party again. Then it is the same platform for all, which is a good thing. For every Office 65 user, you are Office 65, I'm Office 65. I can add you to my link and I can talk to you. I don't have to think about deploying a whole Sky for Business server. Now, on the other side, it's on premise. We have to manage, maintain our data centers. We have to worry about outages. Those can be nightmare for some people. Um, then updates planning. We have to plan for the updates. Okay, coming weekend, my system admins will be working on updating the Exchange servers or domain controllers. All that worries. And then spamming. So you have to protect yourself from spamming. So you have to keep on updating the new definitions. Be aware which new virus or spam is coming in, how it's coming in. Keep on updating yourself and all your devices which can be attacked. Then you have the cost involved for the Microsoft licenses, training, support, uh, and it's never ending that way. Then data protection is one big thing. You have the data in your hand, but then you have to also think about the protection. You want to keep it in your office, and then second office, and on the third office, or third location, which is the what is the location as per business continuity planning. You have to keep the data there in different city or different state. That's another thing to consider. And then you have to also consider of the data protection by implementing all kind of policies, which is there in cloud as well. But I think cloud is a little bit more already. They already have some kind of a protection which is inbuilt. Um, then again, the outage is in your hand, data is in your hand, which is the advantage, and it has a disadvantage. So the way I see it, it's equal. Both the comparisons goes hand in hand. For definitely for a small organization, they would like to go for cloud, but for big organizations, uh, there's a lot of customers, they are still on premise, or they're using hybrid. So they might like to use some feature of Office 365, but most of them would like to keep their data in their hand, like hospitals, security agencies, um, and all different financial organizations or legal lawyers and everything. So for me, it's the comparison is never ending. It's keep on getting deeper, and um, many organizations moving. That's true, but many organizations are not moving to cloud as well. So cloud, I'm just not saying now. I'm thinking about cloud. That cloud is just not Microsoft cloud. There are some private clouds. So the small organizations also have an option to move to the private clouds, which nowadays are offering remote sessions. So you just log into a desktop, you get everything there. You get MS Office, you get all your financial softwares, you get all other softwares which is in your list. You just need to pay for that RDP session, and that's it. So that's a new thing that's becoming really handy for many organizations. Um, all right. So let's move on to the next slide. So what's new compared to Exchange 2010 in Exchange 2016? I'm just pointing few points here, but if you want to know more, there's a lot. I can take like 2-3 hours to discuss that. So I prefer to share my blog on the top, so you can go there and read all the features I have listed there. And if you have any question, you can definitely post below the blog. So with with Exchange 2010, we had the limitation of only 2 data centers, um, and we cannot do the third data center file share witness. So 3 data center DAG was not really available. And what 3 data center DAG provides is a very high available exchange system. In that case, that means that one data center goes down, your exchange will remain up if other two data centers are up. Um, so definitely, it's a big plus for the technology. Once you configure, you're done. You don't have to reconfigure it every day or patch anything every day. Like you have to patch the Exchange servers, but it's a high availability will which will be sustained forever if you configure high availability on day one. Then auto reseed is another great feature, great feature. But then to use it is a little challenging. But then it's compared to Exchange 2010, it's a great feature. What it does is it can automatically swap a disk. If a disk has failed, Exchange will identify it. It will look for spare disk, and it will automatically start the reseeding of that the database which was failed in this new disk. Definitely, it's a little bit complex configuration, but it works. I've tested. I have my YouTube video on it. You can have a look. I tested with 2013, so 2016 is more improved, but it's the same concept. Then new CAS and transport architecture. So Exchange 2016 has removed CAS role. Definitely, there's a totally different CAS architecture compared to Exchange 2010. There's no CAS array. Um, then transport architecture has changed also. So definitely there's a big plus. Safety net has come in more in the bigger picture. You can safety net is with DAG is more powerful. So what safety net does is it keeps one copy in your primary data center of your email, which is in process, and copies second email to a second data center. So that way, if even if your email was in processing and you lost data center, that email has never lost. So until it is sent, it is not lost. So definitely it's a big plus. Another thing, then managed availability and DLP. So managed availability is a new feature which started with Exchange 2013, um, which is a great thing. It can automatically identify which service has gone down. It can bring the service back up, and a lot of automation has involved in it. And then DLP is data loss prevention, like we were talking about data production. So it's like data loss prevention. You can configure all the policies that credit card data cannot go out. You can configure that. You can configure the SSN numbers. If something looks like SSN number, shouldn't go out. Or you can also configure the document printing. So what it will do is that you can submit a kind of a document. If this kind of attachment is going out, block it. So it can verify that it's a legal document, it's matching, it'll block it. So that's kind of a protection has been inbuilt. Then there are more enhancement in legal hold. There was a legal hold was there, so there's more enhancement in in-place archive, retention, and e-discovery, that legal hold. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So, and this is a comparison, which what I was talking about. So Exchange 2010, we had Exchange Management Console. We had three roles basically, primarily, which we used. Then fourth one was unified messaging, and fifth one was edge transport, which were optional, but these three basics were required always. Mailbox role, CAS role, hub transport role. Then RPC over HTTP is there, and when we compare it with Exchange 2016, we have MAPI over HTTP as well. And RPC over HTTP is a going thing now. And down the line 1 year, Microsoft will is going to publish that RPC over HTTP is going away. So then you have to go for MAPI over HTTP as well only. Then Exchange 2010 had litigation hold, but it was not that. Now it's more enhanced. It was not that friendly or ready. It will put everything in the hold. There was not much to configure there. Now you can configure more because you can customize it more. In Exchange 2010, we had public folder database. I know from Exchange 5.5 that public folder has been a pain for many administrators. So those administrators has been relieved, and they will be relieved in Exchange 2016. If you are on 2010 today, then you should definitely move to 2016. That's one more reason. Then manual disaster recovery for two-site DAG. So the DAG was there, or if you have any disaster recovery situation, then you have to follow a bunch of steps, and that has to be done manually. Now it's automated, so you don't have to think about it. So on the right side, if you talk about, now we have Exchange Admin Center in place of Exchange Management Console. Then we have only Mailbox role. Complication has gone. There's no other role left. Only Mailbox role and Edge transport. So you don't have to think whether I need a CAS role on this side, or hub transport role as well, or Mailbox role only. You don't have to get confused there. You have to just deploy one role and done. Then MAPI over HTTP is the new protocol, which is by default enabled in Exchange 2016. Then RPC over HTTP is there as well. Then document collaboration and the site mailbox is the new feature, which is going to use SharePoint on the back end to share it, so that there'll be a mailbox, there'll be a site mailbox, where you will email some documents, but those documents will go to the SharePoint, but you can access it through the mailbox through Outlook. And then we have safety net. I already spoke about safety net. Auto reseed, we already spoke about auto reseed. And then 3 data center expanded auto DAG, we already talked about that. But remember, we can expand the DAG to maximum 3 data centers or maybe more, but there's no use. You cannot keep database more than 2 data centers. So maximum maximum recommended is three data centers, 3 sites, and that's it. Only 2 data centers can have databases, and 1 can have file share witness. I mean, technically it's possible to expand, but Microsoft does not recommend because there are a lot of different issues which can come. Then improved litigation hold plus DLP, we already talked about it. Now the public folder is a mailbox. So you have the public folder. For end user, nothing has changed. But for the administrators, now it's a mailbox. Much easier, right? How many smiles in the room? All right. Managed availability, we talked about it. And then we also have a new audit mailbox. So the auditing data is going to the different mailbox. So that's definitely a good comparison to tell you that.
Prabhat, can I ask a question?
Sure.
2 questions. First, do you know if Office 365 includes all of the features that you're describing of Exchange 2016, or some of those features have not yet been added to Office 365?
Okay, so Office 365 is one step ahead. So they already have these features plus the new features which are going to be coming. I mean, going to come on.
For example, the improved litigation hold, that's already there and available to Office 365 users.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Anything they are releasing, before releasing, Office 365 is already updated. So
I see.
it has to be there.
And the other question is, you're saying in Exchange 2010 it had 3 roles minimum.
Yeah.
Exchange 2016 has only 1 role. Does that mean the CAS and the hub transport have gone away, or they've been rolled into the mailbox?
Yeah, they have been rolled inside. There's no option to select or remove, but they have been merged. They have been merged with mailbox role.
So the functionality is still there. It's just all within 1 role.
Yeah, functionality is still there, but the architecture has changed a lot from Exchange 2010 to 2016. So it's not totally out. Even in Exchange 2013, if we talk about, there was a client access role, but transport was merged between client access and mailbox role. So it was not. So the client access role was just doing the proxying to exchange to mailbox server. It was not a smart client access role. So now everything has merged to mailbox role, which is a good thing. One server, no confusion, basically, I would say.
Right. Right. Thank you.
All right. Let's move on to the next slide, which is now if you're on Exchange 2013 and you deployed like 3 years back or 4 years back when Exchange 2013 was newly released, then you might be thinking that should I update it? Should I upgrade it? It might be a good option for you because there are few new features has come up with the release of CU3. So I'm going to talk about few new features in comparison. MAPI over HTTP was not there. I mean, was introduced after I think SP1, and now it's default protocol and it's enabled in 2016. Document collaboration, I think it was not there. Now it is there in 2016. Windows Server 2016 support was not there. Now Windows Server 2016 is supported, and support for modern authentication for Outlook is not present for Exchange 2013. So it's present only in Exchange 2016. Then more enhancement in archiving, retention, and e-discovery. Then we have Outlook on the web for Exchange 2016. Then we have Office Web App Server. Let me talk a little bit more about Office Apps Web Server, Office Web App Server, which is also named as Office Online Server. So this is a new feature Microsoft introduced. If we think about it, then it can be a lot of expense saver server, I would say, this way. So you might have many users who really don't need an email address, or they rarely check. They might be only checking the HR emails or updates what's happening in the organization, and they're not really doing a lot with the email. So for those users, you might be still investing in Outlook licensing, MS Office licensing. So if you have such kind of users, then Outlook on the web is the thing to go. It's OWA basically, Outlook Web Access. But when OWA has an attachment, then you need a Word or Excel or PowerPoint to open it, right? So if you deploy the Office Online Server, Office Web App Server, then you don't need that. That server will allow you to open those attachments in your Outlook Web Access. So the way I think, then if you implement this, the Outlook Office Online Server, then you should have enough number of users which don't need Outlook and they don't need MS Office. That's where you can save a lot of cost of Office licenses. So that cost can go to this server, and you can keep everything online. You don't have to deploy that MS Office on your desktop.
Hey, Prabhat, can you go into a little bit more detail about support for modern authentication for Outlook? What does that mean?
So so now Microsoft is still not completed fully. That Microsoft, there's a modern authentication is going to be more like multiple 12 factor or ADAL. I mean that basically that's a lot to talk about. That needs the separate session. Like, so I can probably share some links after that, after the session. But then the way we want to see that is modern authentication is more on the um, single sign-on. Then modern authentication is towards the multi-factor authentication. It's all kind of a mixed identities will provide, and that's more supported in Outlook, not in in Exchange 2016, and not in Exchange 2013.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Let's move on to the next slide. All right. Exchange 2016 CU3 features. Yeah, I was not talking about this in the previous slide because these are coming in CU3. They were not existing from the beginning, from RTM. So the previous slide was more towards the RTM side. This is towards CU3 side. So CU3 supports .NET Framework 4.6.2, but only in Windows 2016. Then the new feature was introduced in CU3 is read from passive, which means now your passive. Okay, so let me go one step back. Is how many people know how indexing works in Exchange DAG configuration? So you have a indexing database, and I wanted to know if you know how it works. Do we have anyone in the room wanted to say?
Hold on a second, Mike. Do you want to? It's done on the active. Mike Mendoza said.
Yeah. So it goes to the active database copy and build the index from there. So now with CU3, we will be able to save that network traffic, which is going from one data center to another data center to active database copy server, and building the indexing. So CU3 allows to build the indexing from the passive database copy, which means it can use its own copy to build the indexing. basically it doesn't need to go out of the server as well. So even within LAN, we are going to save a lot of network bandwidth. Now Windows 2016 is supported. Oh, that was released in Ignite, isn't it? They said, oh, Windows Server 2016 has been released. Exchange is supported with it. Yay. Great thing. But within next week, we got the IIS issue where if you have DAG, it was crashing. So the next week we got the IIS issue where the DAG was if you have a DAG installed with the Exchange 2016 on Windows 2016, the IIS started crashing. So Microsoft, or basically not Microsoft, but Microsoft non-Exchange team, but Windows team said not supported. So Microsoft Exchange team was still saying supported on their blog. They did not update immediately. So it is supported without DAG with CU3. Then ISO mounted on localized version of operating system. So if you are not using English version of Exchange server, then when you will mount the ISO in non-English version, it will mount the localized version. So if it's German, French, Spanish, it'll mount that localized version. Then this is another big change they did. The server-wide offline monitoring states that has changed from prerequisite analysis and prerequisite installation to new Exchange binary installation. What does it mean? Like when we are running the setup, at one point of time, Exchange will identify that you are running a setup, so everything has to go down on the server. It will stop all the services after that, and your server will not be working in production. That Exchange can do automatically, and it was doing earlier at the stage when it runs the readiness check and the prerequisite check basically. So now with this CU3, it has changed to next level. When actually it is installing the Exchange binaries, then it will take the server offline. Okay, so moving forward, or moving in this direction, I don't think everyone wants to keep the data running when you are running the setup. Rather, you would like to run something else before. So that's why I have my blog next to it. I have written this blog saying that this is how you should update the cumulative update, or any update on the Exchange server, or even the Windows update if you're running. Then move out all the roles from the Exchange server, and this blog has some commands. Also, there's a script which you can download from gallery called gallery.microsoft.com. Then once you deploy the update, move the roles from this server to another server in your DAG, deploy the updates, restart the server, and then run the second script which will bring all the roles back to the server. That's what I'm recommending, and my customers are doing it. And so for us, or in my world, this change has not changed anything, but this is from Microsoft Exchange team side that they have changed this, which is a good thing. All right, so the next point is they haven't. They are always including the latest time zone support and security updates. That is already included in the CU3. Then they have updated the view of contact information in Skype, in the contact information and Skype for Business Presence. So the way it looks will be looking more interesting. So that's another change. All right. So these are the changes from CU3 specifically. So if we see like 1, 2, 3, for the top 3 changes are kind of good enough in comparison to 2013 with other changes which were released with RTM. So I think with read from passive is one big thing which might interest the customers to move to 2016. But then that being said, you still have to analyze the cost of the migration because that can be a big factor too. Go ahead. Somebody has a question?
Yeah, Prabhat, I want to ask one thing. Like you have mentioned, read from passive. Could you please explain a little bit more on this, or so we can understand what exactly it terms states?
So read from passive is for indexing. So right
Okay.
now, database indexing, read from
Mm,
active database server. So wherever you have the database mounted right now, the active database, the indexing will go there and read it from there, and that consumes a lot of network traffic. So
okay.
with CU3, now it doesn't need to go to another server. It can read from its own copy. So that's a read from passive.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
And you have mentioned Windows 2016 supported but not supported.
Yeah.
Uh,
So 2016 is supported if you don't deploy DAG. If you deploy the DAG, then it's not supported because with the DAG, IIS was crashing, um,
mhm.
and then Microsoft said it's not supported. I mean, Microsoft Windows team said it's not supported first.
So still under observation and still under the coding part is performing, and Microsoft is doing some tricks and tweaks
Yeah,
on the server.
I'm coming on to this last slide in the CU4. CU4 released today. So in CU4 it is supported fully.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So, but yeah, if you can still deploy, I mean, Exchange 2016, but Exchange 2016 on Windows 2016, but you cannot deploy DAG with that. So I understand nobody wants Exchange without DAG now. So but it works. I mean, that's what it is. So if you have a small customer, just have one server, maybe they are okay with it. They don't have to worry about it. Um, I did not mention, but with the CU3 update, Microsoft has also released a new calculator, new Exchange calculator, which is reflecting the read from passive thing because that's going to reduce the network traffic. So if you're on CU2, then you have to use I think you will have to see that comparison. I have not really tested the new calculator, but I think there's an option where it might ask you, or it might tell you that, or you should use the previous version of the calculator. So the good thing to know that there's a new calculator for CU3 and above. So make sure don't use the old calculator when you do the calculation for designing for Exchange resources. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, upgrade to Exchange 2016. How many people are going to do upgrade to Exchange 2016? Raise your hands. Okay, it's coming.
No one's upgrading. No one's upgrading. Oh, there's one or two people that are upgrading.
Okay. So this is what I was saying. It is very simple. Run the setup, select upgrade, and done. Actually, that's what customer expectation, not the reality. So this is not the real thing. Just I wish it could be just that simple. That just run the setup, select upgrade, and done. And I would say there's nothing called upgrade. It's always a migration. And that's it for this slide. That was a little fun slide. I hope you enjoyed. All right, so migration to Exchange 20. Go ahead.
Why did we name this session upgrade? We should just always call it migrate.
Yeah, this is a little fun because there's a term called upgrade. We are upgrading to new version, but then there's nothing called upgrade in the technical term in Exchange. It's always a migration.
No,
So
that's a
yeah,
good point.
so the upgrade is a non-technical term, and then now the technical term is migration. So
Prabhat,
yeah, can you hear me?
I can. Is Microsoft seeing any particular statistics on people upgrading from or migrating from on-premise to Office 365? Are they seeing large numbers of people who are abandoning their on-premise, or are they seeing a lot of people staying with the on-premise and continuing to migrate?
Okay, based on the analysis from Ignite, it was 50-50, or it was very close to 50-50, that 50% audience in Ignite was supporting or they were on Office 365, and 50% was on-premise. And there was a mix of 66% or something that they were in the hybrid. So the way I see it, everyone wants to go for hybrid because you pay very little for using some services. Like, think about a link. You have a on-premise Exchange server and you want to use Skype for Business, which is same cost as E3 plan you have to pay. So you take an E3 plan, or and then you get the Mailbox plus link. You don't have to configure the whole Skype for Business server. And there might be only executives in some kind of organizations that they just need the Skype for their own discussion internally. So they might just go for 10 E3 and they configure the hybrid setup for that, and they don't want to go for a whole organization. That's also be trending. So every organization wants to go for hybrids kind of a setup. They might not move everything to cloud, but they would like to move some of the users. Or some organizations have this kind of trend that you will be if you are a contractor, your mailbox is in Office 365. If you are an employee, your mailbox is in on-prem. So that's also kind of a people are going for. So everything is possible, everything is depends, but the trend is that hybrid is more common now. Everyone wants hybrid now. Another cause is Azure multi-factor authentication server. So now we have Azure multi-factor authentication server, which you can deploy in an on-prem, and that will provide, I mean, with ADFS and MFA, multi-factor authentication, you can do the multi-factor authentication with OWA and RD Web. Then it's like nothing has to go without multi-factor authentication. Rather going third party. I know there are third parties for multi-factor authentication as well, but this is one thing for which many organizations going for hybrid.
Prabhat, we have an on-premise question.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that's not a mistake. Unless you're going to be moving your directory services to the cloud, then you're going to be remaining in hybrid.
So the question was, unless you move your directory services to the cloud, you're going to have to operate in hybrid. Is that correct?
Yes. You have to operate. You should operate in hybrid. Even if you, I mean, you cannot move directory services to cloud completely. Otherwise, how client will connect and how, I mean, it will be very slow if you don't have any domain controller in on-premise. So you have to keep Active Directory, and Microsoft always give you one free license for latest Exchange server. So why not keep it? That's what it is. So that you can edit with that. You can edit all the attributes in your on-premise, and that those attributes can be synced. So you will feel more controlled. So that's always my recommendation. But yes, the answer is right. If you the assumption is correct. Yes, if you don't move directory services completely, you are always in hybrid. You have something or the other going on.
That's why I point out because a lot of companies maybe want to move their Exchange services to Exchange Online, but not necessarily their directory services. So they're always going to be in hybrid configuration with them at this point, as he's pointed out, Exchange server on-prem.
Yeah.
To maintain that.
Sure.
And then the hybrid is like, it's just not, I'm not only talking about Exchange hybrid. You can do that you can create you can have directory services on premise, and you can completely remove Exchange from your system, on premise system. You can have that that user sync to the cloud, and you can only keep their mailboxes in the cloud. So if you're talking about Exchange, you don't really need Exchange if you wants to go to cloud. That Exchange hybrid will go away, but directory sync will be still there. So
Okay, thank you.
all right, let's move on to the slide. And okay, migration to Exchange 2016. That's the main topic of the tonight. It's discussion around it is good. Exchange 2016 is becoming more stable now. Um, so how I do, or how I recommend anybody, is this way: that you first discover, run the discovery part where you identify the current issues, or you identify what I need to be at 2016, the patches, the latest updates, the Windows updates, or domain controllers, Active Directory, what I need, where do we have, where we are. That's the discovery part. Then I move on to remediation. If I have something lacking, like I have a Windows 2003 domain controller, I will have to remove that under remediation part. So then I will do the design part, where I will do all the planning, or you should do all the planning, calculation, Exchange calculation, then any other design, the URL design, if you want to change new certificate, if you want to change all those things, we'll see in the future slide. Then deploy, then mailbox migration, public folder migration, remove legacy. That's it. Now the coexistence part. If we think about a coexistence, then we have to be at these updates level. So if you are currently using Exchange 2010, you have to be at Service Pack 3 RU11 or above to install Exchange 2016. Then if you are on Exchange 2013, then you have to be on cumulative update 10 or above. If you are on Exchange 2007, then Exchange 2016 is not for you unless you do the cross forest migration. So that's a separate topic altogether. But for Exchange 2007 and 2016, they cannot exist in same AD forest. All right, let's move. And Active Directory prerequisites. That's the first thing is comes in mind, is the Active Directory prerequisites. So forest functional level should be Windows 2008 or above to deploy Exchange 2016. Then domain functional level should be Windows 2008 and above. Yeah, I mean, it's like if the forest is 2008, then definitely domain has to be the same. Then all domain controllers should be 2008 or above, just to specify if you have something. But the forest is 2008, then everything below is 2008. It has to be. Then it has been a requirement from Exchange forever, that you need a domain controller with global catalog in every AD site, at least one. Then recommendation is to go for 64-bit domain controller, because there will be a lot of AD queries generated by Exchange 2016. So they always recommend to go 64-bit. So if you have any Windows 2003 domain controllers, we should be removing that. It cannot work with Exchange 2016. Let's move on to the next slide. Operating system and resources. So now, if you think about operating system, it's simple Windows 2012 standard or above, but you cannot deploy IP-less-DAG in it. So go for Windows 2012 R2 standard or above. Then IPv6 is recommended to be enabled with IPv4. So don't disable IPv4 and enable IPv6. Enable both is the recommendation, unless you have any specific issue where Microsoft has recommended to disable IPv6. It's requested to be enabled. Then page file. Page file is one more important thing which we normally don't focus, but this is something to be focused and configure right to get the right performance. So normally page file recommendation was or is physical RAM plus 10 MB, But with Exchange, it goes crazy, right? So the memory physical RAM is like, you might deploy 96 gigs. So does it mean you have to have page file of 96 gigs plus 10 MB? No, the maximum size limit there is 32 gigs plus 10 MB, I guess. That's the calculation. So this is the number you have to be. This is the last number you should configure the page file size, which means your C drive should have this much of space available as well. Then memory. The minimum for mailbox role is 8 gig and the maximum 96 gigs. And same for edge transport. The minimum is 4 gig and you can go up to 96. I don't think you need 96 ever for edge, but for mailbox role, I have seen people have gone, customers have gone above 96. Then the processor, 64-bit architecture processor Intel is always recommended. The another one which can work is AMD 64. As always, Intel ITM, Itanium never works, so it's not going to work this time as well. Next slide is storage and disks. So I have always presented this thing that disk format is one more thing is important to get the right performance. So 64-bit 64K cluster block size is recommended for disk formatting. Then for system and Exchange binary files, we should go for NTFS with RAID 1 recommended, which is like operating system and Exchange files on the NTFS. And for database logs and content indexing partition, we should go for REFS, which is always 64K cluster. But then you have to look into that your backup system can support REFS.
REFS means?
That's a file system. That's a reluctant file system.
Okay.
Sorry, resilient. I think it's a resilient file system. So that's the option you get when you format a disk. And then you have, but yeah, not every backup system support REFS partition backup. So you have to definitely check that your backup supports or not. Then we have to consider storage. So if you are going to use the old storage, then you can skip this part. I don't even read it. But if you are going to build a new storage, then because what I'm saying old storage, because if you're going to use old storage, then it's definitely a SAN, and your storage team is giving you the bunch of LUNs to use for Exchange. So in that case, the auto reseed is of no use. Because it's part of that. It's not a full disk. So Microsoft recommends using JBOD disk with auto reseed functionality. In case you have in case you have two servers, then you can use that, and you don't need to go for RAID. Think about it, the amount of space you will lose, or you always lose with the RAID 5 or RAID 6. That's huge for huge organizations which have databases like terabytes and 50 terabyte database, and they have 4 copies of database, and then they are using RAID 5, which is like 33% of their size of the disk is being saved for RAID. So in that case, more than 60 gigs, 60 terabytes, more than 60 terabytes is available for nothing, and you might never have a failure, so that might not be used. So Microsoft recommends using JBOD and add one spare disk that will take care of your all failures. So if one disk goes bad, then it will just remount the disk. So amount of recovery time would be almost same, but then it is automated. It is less storage consuming. It's a recommended thing. And with JBOD you will get more IOPS. That's one big thing to think about. With JBOD you'll get more IOPS than you'll get in SAN, which is a shared disk you're getting. Alright, next slide is about supported clients. Outlook 2016 is definitely supported, and then you have other Outlook 2013 SP1 or later with this particular KB hotfix. Then Outlook 2010 SP2 with this particular KB and hotfix. Remember that it might not be included in the next service pack, so definitely you would like to check that if it is installed. Then Outlook for Mac for Office 65, and Outlook for Mac 2011 or later. MAPI CDO clients are not supported. MAPI has gone, so yeah, that's one more thing, that there's no MAPI connectivity protocol in Exchange 2016. Even in 2013 it was gone, so there's no more MAPI. So MAPI CDO clients are not supported anymore. Outlook 2007 is not supported anymore. Outlook for Mac 2008 EWS version is not supported. This is for clients. Next slide is migration remediations. So there are a few things I know for the fact that it's not there if you are not on Exchange 2016, like the clients enabling MAPI over HTTP. So you have to ensure that you are on those clients level to get the MAPI over HTTP. Now then, so that's one big thing you would like to remediate. If your clients are not at that level, you would like to check it and update all your clients. That's one big project itself, updating MS Office for all users. Then the load balancer part. So now the load balancer till Exchange 2013, we had the castle. Many organizations didn't go for load balancer. They were small organizations. They used network load balancing, Windows NLB. But going forward with Exchange 2016, that's not an option. So we have to think about load balancer now. You have to invest some money to buy load balancer, virtualized or hardware, whichever you feel is better for your organization. Always a recommendation to go for hardware, which will add more physical CPU or memory rather than going virtual. That can be separate, but it can be another thing that you can expand the virtual one and not the hardware one. So that's a totally different discussion. But then you have to think about the load balancer now. Then current Exchange version update. So that's what I was talking, that the coexistence update required. So you have to go for the latest. I would recommend just not the limited version which is required, but go for the latest version, so that there should not be any compatibility issue. Then Active Directory update. So we definitely have to do the Active Directory update when we go for a new Exchange version. So you have to plan for that. Sorry, that was okay. This term is for basically for the Active Directory update. Means if your Active Directory is not at the 2008 level, then you have to bring your Active Directory at 2008 level. Then next is remove 2003 domain controllers. If you have any Windows 2003 domain controller, then you have to remove it. Then remove Exchange 2007 servers. If you have an Exchange 2007 in your environment, then you cannot deploy Exchange 2016. The path can be that you deploy Exchange 2013 first, and then migrate. In the midway, you can migrate everything there, and then move to Exchange 2016 as a last option. So yes, you get a 180 days trial version, so which you can use, but that's only support 5 databases. So that's a limitation. So that way you can do it, but you have to limit your everything into the 5 databases. You cannot go for more databases. Then fix any other AD issue, Exchange AD replication, Exchange had some configuration issues, anything reported in the health check or something. You need to look into that. You have to fix it. That's a recommendation always. Then let's move on to the next slide, which is
Prabhat, one question here.
go ahead.
Yeah, if any of the customer wants to migrate their Lotus nodes to Exchange 2016, so what are the path they have to follow? Directly, they have to use any third-party tool like Binary Tree or something, Quest migration tool.
Yeah, so I would recommend to go for Dell Quest, which is a
Okay.
much easier tool. I mean, definitely they have to use a third-party tool, but then
Mhm.
planning and design would be same. You have to plan. for Exchange deployment. So this part will still remain same, but that's one option. Dell Quest tool. Then you have the BitTitans migration viz tool, and you also have the binary tree. But binary tree is more complicated. It's not so friendly. If you have never used it, you might need an architect from binary tree itself to help you out. All right. Any other question?
No, go ahead.
All right, so let's move on to the planning and design slide. This is more interesting, I guess, to everyone. So Exchange calculator would need inputs. So there are some inputs you would need, like uh, per average of the mailbox. Sorry, average per email size we need. That is one thing is not easy to get the right number. Then there's a second thing which will be complicated is number of emails sent and received by per user per day. So that's we are trying to get an average of one user's email send and receive per day. That's again is tough to get. So we used to have tools before, but there's no more tool. So we have to use the PowerShell script, which can track it down from your message tracking logs. That this is the data you have to use. So I think in the end, I have added my blog of the planning and design. In that, the links are available to which is another Microsoft blog link, which tells you how to calculate it, and that's how you calculate. So the first thing is that Exchange calculator input calculation. That's one thing. Go ahead, use that script, calculate that. Then use the Exchange calculator 8.3 for CU3, and then I mean in that calculator definitely I think I missed to mention, or I have already mentioned that input. So the input one also would require to calculate the processor values as well. So then once you have those values, then you can go to the calculator and then and then calculate what you need as per your design, and then we move to the storage design, because that's one big thing, or one important thing to design correctly is more important, because if you don't design correctly, then it'll be like in one storage you are getting two disks to two different servers from one. I mean, you're getting two LUNs from same disk to be attached to two different servers, which is not making sense for me. I would go for two separate disks giving me separate LUNs if we have to use LUNs. In that way, that one, even if the one storage goes off or one disk in the storage goes down, then I don't have to worry about it. So that's kind of a high available storage design. That's what we should go for. So that's again the planning and designing. You have to talk to the storage team and discuss and plan it. Then auto receipt decision. If you are going for JBOD and that kind of a design you have, then you can go for auto receipt. Then jet stress. You want to run the jet stress on the disk. Once you have the disk, connect with your operating system, run the jet stress to see that whether you get the right IOPS. If you're not getting right IOPS, then it's a failure to the system. It will give you the error, and you have to talk to the storage team to get it fixed and rerun the jet stress. Then the load gen is another tool which generates a load on those databases, and that helps you finding out any other bug. Then we also have the WAN simulator, which can simulate the WAN and also identifies if the bandwidth you have is available, the available bandwidth is enough or not. Then there's a bandwidth calculator as well, which can calculate based on the number of Outlook clients, OWA clients, and active sync connections will be coming every day. Then Exchange DAG design we have to do, which will be like we have three data centers. So which data center will have file share witness, and which data center will have database servers. Also, the design would include that which data center would go for with how many servers. Are they going to be active? Are they going to be active passive? So how many servers per data center will design. Then do we need Office online server? This is Office web apps server I was talking about earlier. So that's another question. If we need that this server require another URL, that URL has to be included in the certificate. So that, and then also do the calculation or the hardware spec calculation for the server. Then decide on naming convention, authentication protocols. Some organizations support the UPN login. So going forward with Exchange 2016, they want to go for UPN because that UPN can be used with the Office 365 hybrid. So you want to go for which kind of authentication or the naming convention. We have to decide for database, servers, DAG, everything. So, I mean, these all are going to be listed in a document. So that's what is the planning and design document comes out with this phase of designing. Then CAS URLs. CAS URLs can be bounded and unbounded namespaces, which we have to decide which way we would like to go and what would be the namespaces. So the URLs has to be correct. That has to, again, as a next pointer, SSL certificate will take those URLs. And one more important point here is if you are using the CAS array in Exchange 2010, then you have to consider a separate Outlook Anywhere URL. Else, the CAS array will not come into the picture after a while. So you would prefer to remove that CAS array if you don't want to. If you cannot use the separate URL, separate FQDN or URL, whatever it calls, separate host name. And then then next part is the design database preferences. So which server will have like the database A as active copy, and which server will have the second copy as a second preference number, and third preference, fourth preference, and that design has to be presented, has to be created, so that in the next phase you can implement that. And then ports opening. Minimum requirement is to open port 443 to Exchange servers so that the CAS connection can come, and most of the connections are coming on for port 443. Port 25 might not be required because you might be filtering everything through a spam filter, a spam guard, so I'm not adding port 25. But if your Exchange server is directly exposed to internet, then you might like to consider opening port 25 as well. But it's just port 25, it's not going to send you anything else. It can only send the emails. So alright, so next is change management approvals. That's where I have invested a lot of time to getting all my changes approved, and the last minute you look for it's not going to work. So you have to plan ahead that these are changes like schema update, Exchange 2007 removal, Exchange 2000 Active Directory 2003 removal, upgrading Active Directory 2008, all that, deployment of new updates for Exchange 2010 and everything. You can take the approval and go ahead after that. Alright, this is the planning and design steps. If you have any question, I can stop here, else move forward. All right.
Yeah, you can continue, Prabhat. Those really are separate sessions. Some of those can get pretty deep, technical details.
Yeah. All right. So now it's prepare Active Directory. When it comes to prepare Active Directory, my recommendation or my suggestion is always separate your schema master from everybody. You cannot remove the wire because that will not work for the setup. You can block the replication. It doesn't hurt, because if your schema master goes bad, you can just seize the role and make a new server as a schema master. So stop the replication. These are the commands to stop replication. Then run the prepare schema, do the Active Directory testing, restart the server. Once you're satisfied that your Active Directory is working, it's giving you the right responses, enable the replication back, let it replicate for a while. As a third step, replication on the schema start, and then run the prepare AD, and then run the prepare domain. If you just have one domain, you don't need the third command, but I've mentioned it as you might need it. You might have 2 domains, you might have 3, 4. So if you run the all domain, it will update all the domains with the new exchange update, new exchange permissions, basically. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, deployment prerequisites. This is for the Exchange deployment prerequisites. So minimum you need .NET Framework 4.5.2, and if you're going to deploy Exchange management tools to any other server, which is just like a management shell, and there's only one queue viewer, that then you need .NET Framework 4.5.2 also in the management tool management server. That's it. For management server, you just need for just a framework, nothing else. For Exchange server, you also need the Unified Communication Managed API 4.0 core runtime 64-bit, and then we need Visual C++ redistributable for Visual Studio 2015 for Office Online Server, not for Exchange. And then the roles. These are the roles you need, which you can add manually. Most of them are the IS roles, but there's some extra content. But I prefer to run the command, which will be just quickly do it, and I don't have to select and click next. Much easier way. And these are the components required for Exchange, and then later component is for the Office Online Server. So these are the Exchange deployment prerequisites. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, big topic to cover. So deployment steps. So if you remember, there was .NET 4.6.1, when it was released, it came as a Windows update, and many of us had deployed it, and then we lined up to the issues. So there was a blog post released which says that, okay, this is how you can block this .NET, and then we implemented it. With the CU3, we don't need to block it. So now we can remove that registry key and unblock it, so that we can deploy the 4.6.1 if required, or we can just go for the 4.6.2 if we are going for CU4. Okay, then configure load balancer. Considering if you're out of load balancer, then you have to procure and configure everything new. But if you already had it, then probably you might not need to configure much, but add new Exchange servers in the already existing VIPs. Then make sure to do the Windows update. Then install Exchange server one by one. I would say don't install all of them together, install one by one, because they are updating lot of settings in the Active Directory, so you don't want that mess up in the Active Directory. Then install Office Online Server if required, if it is a requirement. Then install a certificate. Definitely certificate has to be discussed and procured and deployed. Then configure DAG. My recommendation is always go for the 3 data center DAG if possible. Now Microsoft offer that you can keep the file share witness in Azure, but that also requires you to have one domain controller in Azure. So what you can do is you can deploy one domain controller in Azure, and you can keep the file share witness on that domain controller. But that if you have separate Active Directory team and Exchange team, then it's more complicated. Then create databases. Then create Exchange 2016 admin mailbox. I always do that because this is my Exchange 2016 mailbox, and that allows me to open EAC pretty well. I create a mailbox and add the permissions to that user so that this user has everything what I need for Exchange ECP or EAC. What I've seen earlier, that if I use Exchange 2010 user, I cannot open the EAC. That Exchange 2010 user opens old ECP, which is the configuration part of that user account. So that really I'm not looking for. So I was expecting. So I always do that. Or you have to add the version number when you try to open the ECP. So rather than doing that, I prefer this way, and it works all the time. And then configure MAPI over HTTP and Outlook Anywhere on Exchange 2016. Our MAPI over HTTP will be enabled by default. So the new mailbox I will create will be connecting to MAPI over HTTP. Then configure IIS redirection if required. Many organization comes and says, "Oh, my user just want to type owa.domain.com," and can we configure it to redirect to automatically to HTTPS OWA? Yes, we can. So that's a configuration. I would say yes, do that. So if anyone mistakenly don't type HTTPS in front, then it will do it. Your IIS can do it. Then for if you are on Exchange 2010, there are a couple of special things you have to do it. That's like you have to create a new offline address book, because that offline address book, which used to stay in the public folders, is not going to work with Exchange 2016. Now offline address book stays in a mailbox. All right. So we have to create new offline address book. We have to create new address lists, because again the old address lists are located in the public folders. Then configure databases. Basically, once you have the address list and offline address book, then you can configure them to the databases. That's why configuring the database is coming later. Then configure URLs except ActiveSync, because if ActiveSync comes in, it might go for the latest version of the server and then come back. So I just don't configure it with which way we can avoid any loop. And I've been through an issue where we had the same issue. So after that onwards, I'm recommending not to configure ActiveSync. That can be configured later, and rest can be configured right now. Then configure SCP, the auto discover service internal URI. Then configure your backup. Then configure your antivirus exclusions. Configure receive connector. And I always recommend to move transport log from C drive to another folder, which is in my case I always ask for an extra disk, separate disk for transport logs, which comes in the calculator. Calculator tells you separate disk space for transport, so I use that. Then configure Office Online Server endpoint mailbox server on the mailbox server, or at the org level. So that there's a configuration required to point your rendering request to Office Online Server, which can be configured either on the mailbox server level or on the org level. So if you have Exchange 2013 in the picture, then don't configure this at the org level. Alright, okay, so this is the deployment, and then the next slide is the pre-cutover testing. So once you have this part configured, then we can use the host file and test most of the things which are configured in Exchange 2016. So update your host file with all your pointers to Exchange 2016 server or load balancer. which is for Extension 2016. Then ensure all your Outlook versions are supporting MAPI over HTTP protocol. Then do the test mailbox migration for test users. So you should have few test users, or you can create few test users, populate a little bit of data, migrate them, and see how it goes. Then test OWA and Outlook. Test it for a mailbox in Exchange 2016. Test it for a mailbox in Exchange 2010 or 2013. Test mailbox access, calendar, permissions, public folders. Then test OAB. Download the OAB. Try to check name from GAL, check name from OAB, and then do the mail flow testing for internal users within Exchange 2016, Exchange 2016 to Exchange 2010, Exchange 2016 to internet. How's it working? Then calendar sharing, like the boss and secretary share the calendar, so calendar sharing is working or not. Okay. Then once you're done with the testing, you will figure out that everything okay, or you have some issues. If you have some issues, fix those issues. This is the time. And once you fix those issues, you will then we can move to the cutover stage. Then this is the cutover part, where we have for Exchange 2010 there are some more steps where you have to update the email address policy, update recipients, update active sync authentication to on Exchange 2010 server. You have to false the basic authentication and just keep the Windows authentication. If you have 2013, that doesn't matter, because both 2013 and 2016 can coexist together in even in the load balancer as well, so that's different. Then update the active sync authentication on Exchange 2016, which should enable the basic authentication as well as Windows authentication. Then update active sync URL, which we did not update earlier. Then change the server to send servers in the send connector, which is sending the emails for you to either the spam guard or to the internet. And then enable Outlook Anywhere in Exchange 2010. Change auto discover and all URL pointers to Exchange 2016 or Exchange 2016 load balancer web. Mostly we will change that, and then you have it configured all the URLs, then mostly you will change the firewall pointer to the Exchange 2016 load balancer or Exchange server 2016. Then change the spam guard to forward and receive the email from Exchange 2016 and to Exchange 2016. This is the cutover part. Yeah, I was listening some sounds. Did we have any question?
Yeah, we do have a question.
During our migration from 2010 to Exchange 2002, we experienced some issues where we migrated batches of users, and on Discover, for example, Exchange Web Services, we had to update the application rules on the ISS virtual directories to shorter intervals so that the users would actually run on Discover. Exchange free busy, for example, wouldn't work until we did that. I want to know if he knows whether it was CU3 or CU4 has addressed that.
Pravat, did you hear that? Mike was asking questions regarding how the app pool, he had to reduce the time that it recycles. So that way it would see, for example, free busy changes. Have you seen or heard of anything along those lines?
Yeah, I'm coming on to that. That's app pool is after migration, so let's wait for that.
Okay, so we'll get to that. Sorry.
Yeah, we are getting there. So the next slide is what you were talking about. The last step is there. So let me walk through and then we'll discuss that. So when it comes to the mailbox migration, the cutover is done, everything's configured, expected that everything's working fine. We're going ahead with the mailbox migration. So I always recommend or do this, that we need to extract some outputs so that we have all this data before migrating anyone. So I need some AD attributes, which can be very important. So I always extract the AD attributes which has some delegation configuration, as well as their mailbox quota. So mostly within 180 it will not change anything, but it is good to have it on your side. Another point is I extract is the their mailbox size and deleted item size. So what it does, or what I recommend always, once you have this data, then I always bifurcate them to equally to multiple databases. Like if I'm planning for 5 databases, then I will ensure that my my distribution of the mailboxes should be equally distributed, so that the database size should grow at the same level. It should not be that one database is 500 gigs and another one is 100 only, which is not the right design. So that can be done with the extract. We do that, we extract it, we configure that, then we plan to move all the room mailboxes, user mailboxes, arbitration mailboxes, discovery search mailboxes. That's basically we are migrating in the migration phase. For migration for one mailbox, it is a simple command: new mailbox, new move request, and the ID of the user, and then uh, target database name, and database and database name. It will move it. For multiple users, it's always recommended that you create multiple CSV files. That one CSV file is going to one database. So that way, once you do that, then run this command, get content from that file, and run the new move request to that database. And I'm also adding suspend when ready to complete switch, which is stopping the mailbox migration at 95%. And once it is 95%, we need to inform the user that we are going to complete your move. So you might see a flick or disconnect and reconnect in your Outlook, or you might need to close and reopen Outlook. So once you inform the user, then run the completion that with the resume move request will complete that. And then you have to update the address book, because the offline address book had this user in the different server, so now it was not there in this address book. So now this user migrated, so now you have to update the offline address book. And then, I mean, if the user is, that's why, I mean, one thing is that migration is always recommended in the night, so that it gives enough time for Exchange to update itself, and we don't need to recycle the app pools. But if you are doing it during the day and user is available right now, right away testing, then you will have to restart these two application pools, the auto discover application pool and OWA application pool. Was that the question, Mike?
Yeah, that was in reference to it. But what we did was we got the interval, like Ben pointed out, kind of referred to, better updates, so we don't have to go in there manually do it with every batch of migrations that the mail wants them to do. I mean, this help.
Yeah. So the challenge, I don't know if you heard, he said, I guess the issue is if you're doing batches of migrations,
Yeah.
then you have to recycle it constantly. So
Yeah.
it's better just to set it to automatically recycle after X amount of time.
Yeah, during that phase, I mean, you can have a script, or I think you can configure in IS as well. Uh, yeah, so, but then it's not a recommendation. I would never recommend to do that automated restart. It is easy. It's not so hard, so you can do it manually. That's what I would say. But you have to do the batch migration in the night. When you do the big migrations, mostly you do it in the night, not in the day. So it is not required if you do in the night, unless it's like, let's say migration has finished at 4 a.m. and users are coming at 7 a.m. So it's just 3 hours. It will be okay. You don't need to restart app pool if that's the case. But you have an option. You can do that. I mean, you can do the recycling, but it's not recommended. Why? Because if you forget to remove it from recycling, then what it does, the recycling, is it disconnects all the users. So if your users were sending some query earlier, then they will be disconnected. The OI app pool will disconnect all the OI users. So you don't want that, right? So that the disconnect is happening always. You don't want that. So that's why it is not recommended to configure the recycling. But if it feels better for you until you finish the migration, then it's your call.
I get you. Mike thinks otherwise. I mean, we can easily test this. Yeah, we don't need to go into the details.
Look at it in your lab environment. We found that the existing
Mike's saying the existing connections for, well, you wouldn't see auto discovery, first of all.
Yeah.
You wouldn't see that. But for OWA, if you had an OWA user logged in and they were trying to run a request at the same time you were recycling.
Yeah, you will see that.
Yeah, we'll talk about this later. But yeah, okay. Yeah. Thanks, Prabhat.
All right.
Prabhat, one more thing here.
Okay.
Like you have mentioned, every batch, once we completed a migration batch, then we have to recycle. Like if we are doing in daytime, then we have to recycle these two services, correct?
These are application pool in IIS, not the services.
Yeah.
So you have to recycle it during the day. Yeah. If you do that, that's so that you can see the instant result. Otherwise, it will take time, but it will be fine. It is just to see the immediate result, immediate changes in connection pointers.
Okay, so if we create a one batch of 100 user, and if we have migrated completed, then we have to recycle this two app pools, and once it is done, and the user can access the OVA or whatever the Outlook anywhere.
Yes, it should work after that. Because if you don't recycle, you might see some issues that they are not able to connect or something. But if you recycle, then it will be fine. There are Microsoft's support articles on that as well. To saying that you have to restart this application pool. Hey Mike, you might have seen that support articles as well. That there are two articles, one for Auto Discover app pool and another for OVA app pool. Talking about the same I think issue, and I can share it after. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. Not many left, like 5 more left. So yeah, okay, so
hey Prabhat, just be clear that you're going to be giving the slide deck. We're going to post this online.
No, they'll be charged for that. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, definitely, I'll send you. You will have the slide just after the session. So public photo migration, I mean I have already completed two webcasts, I think, for public photo migration. The video the video is in the YouTube, so if you want to go ahead, you can just do that. But these are the basic steps which are handy for Exchange 2010 or 2007 to Exchange 2013 or Exchange 2016 migration. That's why you can see a lot of places it's Exchange 2013 mentioned. So that should be assumed for this slide is old, and it was created for 2013, but now we are talking about 2016. So it's going to be same. There's no changes in that. So but then more enhanced version is there. There's a batch migration that can be used as well. But I'm talking about the public photo migration, and this is only for 2010 to 2016. Exchange 2013 to Exchange 2016 is a mailbox. You just need to move a mailbox, and that's it. So the first step is taking the snapshots, gathering the data from Exchange 2010 public folders. You have to run these three commands which will give you the data, and then second step is preparing on legacy Exchange server. So that command will lock for migration false. That's going to unlock it so that you can migrate the data, and the migration completed, not completed. I mean, it's saying false is not completed, so you can start the migration. So now on the right side, so for step 1 and 2 has to be done on Exchange 2010. Then step 3 is for Exchange 2016. The step 1 had some scripts, I guess. Okay. Yeah. Okay. This will work. Sorry. So step 3 for Exchange 2016, get the public photo migration request. If there's any request there, remove it. It's basically not required if you have never have created any request, but just a precautionary. Then get mailbox public folders to disable any mail enabled public folder. Then remove any. I mean, this is the step where deleting any existence of the public folder in Exchange 2013 or 16. Then the step number 5 is the main step where we are doing something with the public folders. So that's where we are creating a new mailbox for public folders. And last thing you should see in that command is mapgen file. So the mapgen file was created in, so the fourth step on the left side is creating the mapgen file, right? So that those are the scripts you have. You have two scripts: export public folder statistics .ps1 and the public folder to mailbox map generator .ps1. So those scripts comes with new Exchange server, Exchange 2013 and Exchange 2016. You might not find in the script folder in Exchange 2010, so you have to copy those scripts to Exchange 2010 from Exchange 2016 or 2013 and then run those commands. So the first is exporting statistics, second is creating the I think mapgen file, which will be used in the step number 5. Then the step number 6 is migration request creation. So that is going to create the actual migration request creation, that command. And the step number 6 will finalize the migration. That's going to lock the migration, the public folder lock for migration. So they're being migrated. So once and the step number 8 is the command line, which is like now we are migrating. So then the first command is a prevent completion. That's again like 95% of the migration complete, and it will stop. And then in the next command it is resuming the migration. So once it will complete, then we are done. Then we will have to look for the cleanup. So it looks very simple, but it's a little bit complicated. Depends on the data you have. It will give you some errors if you have incorrect name of the public folders, like the backslash. I think that gives that gives you the issue. Or if you have a space in their name, then it'll give you the issue. So those things you might need to correct first, and then if you have any corruption, then that will fail as well. So that's based on issue to issue we can fix that, but otherwise it's pretty straightforward. That you gather the data, you create the map file, which will create the mailboxes, and then you create the migration request and log the migration, log the public folder for migration, which means nothing else can be added, and then you complete the migration. I'm sure you have some confusions, but then on my YouTube channel you have this already recorded, so you can definitely go back and see that. But again, we can talk about if you have any question later. Alright, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, now we are done. Like at this point, all the mailbox migrated, public folder migrated, we are done. Now we want to remove Exchange 2010 and 2013. So this is how I recommend. Ensure all mailboxes has moved. I mean, ensure that on the back end help desk, some old guy who's returning from holiday has not created a mailbox again in the old server. So just ensure that, remove that mailbox if it's the case. Then ensure the all public folder data has moved. Then after this, my recommendation always shut down legacy Exchange servers for a couple of days to see, or week, to see if there's any issue comes up, and if there's any issue coming back, then bring them back to the production, move that pointer, fix that issue, shut down back, and once you shut down, wait for a week. Once you're satisfied that they are not required, they're not being connected or approached by any other application, then bring up the server and remove them and ready when you're ready to remove. So remove all public folder replicas first, because without that you cannot remove the public folder database. So remove the public folder replica, clean up from public folder management. You can do that, and then remove the public folder database. Then I mean, not right now, but you also remove. Also need to remove the OAB, and you also need to remove Exchange 2010 cache array. Remove Exchange 2010 2013 mailbox database and public folder database for Exchange 2010. Then remove Exchange legacy server from control panel. There's an uninstall button. Click that. Do it from there. It has to do formally. It should be uninstalling. That will remove all the AD settings, AD configuration. That's most important, because you cannot go to every location and remove that Exchange server. So you should do this way. Otherwise, you will see the many issues popping up from here or there, that this entry exists, that entry exists, but server is not reachable or something, and that's not nice. So uninstall from control panel. Then remove IS, any other data in the database disks, remove that. Now the most important question is, can we restore a backup after removing last Exchange server, like last Exchange 2010 or last Exchange 2013, and you have a backup to restore, and your legal team comes and says, oh, restore 1 month old backup. Can we do that? Is anyone willing to answer or answering?
Someone guessed yes.
Okay, that's a wrong answer, but because if you have removed the Exchange server, last Exchange server, there's no way you can reinstall Exchange 2010 or 2013 in the Exchange 2016 environment, because that has been logged, that old version does not exist, has been updated. So the recommendation is keep the last Exchange servers in the shutdown mode until we identify there's no need to restore the backup, or that retention period has passed. Then only uninstall the last Exchange server. All right. Let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so today is the day when cumulative update 4 released. What a lucky day. We are discussing about Exchange and we have CU4 released. So we were discussing about CU3 and CU4 released. Good thing, great thing, new things coming. Okay, now .NET Framework 4.6.2 will be supported for whole world. Everyone can install, everyone can use in their Exchange environment. Even Windows 2012 will support Windows 4.6.2. Exchange 2013 will support 4.6.2. Good thing. Here's the path. So basically, if you are currently on 4.6.1, then you are good to go either way. You deploy CU4 first, or you deploy 4.6.2 first. Doesn't matter. And then vice versa later, whichever you want to deploy next, you can deploy that. And then you have an option. Okay, then there are users who are on 4.5.2. They can install. They have to do this way. So they have to install CU4 first, and then they have to install .NET 4.6. And then this is one more update which came as like enforcement. So now you have to plan for 4.6.2, because the next update, which is coming in March 2017, that will ask you to deploy 4.6.2. So we have to go for .NET 4.6.2. So we have to plan for it. So if you keep the 3 weeks or 1 CU gap, then you have 6 months to think about it or plan for it. But if you just apply the latest update in a month, then probably you have 3 to 4 months to think about it and figure out how can you deploy 4.6.2. All right, the next update in CU4 is Windows 2016 IIS issue has fixed with DAG, but there is a KB. You have to deploy this. This KB is a big KB, which is around 1 gig, I guess, is the size of this KB, and you have to deploy this before running any other cumulative update. So you might have some questions, right? If you go and search for this KB, then you might have some questions because it shows the Windows 10 URL. So is it for Windows 2016 server? That might be the question, because it says that Windows 10 in the URL, but then it has applies to, which says that yes. The next question you might have, is it included in cumulative update? And my answer is no, because this is an update for IIS, which is part of operating system and not part of Exchange, so it is not included in Exchange updates. So now the last question you might have: what if I don't install this update? Then you cannot install any Exchange cumulative update. So the cumulative, if you want to deploy Exchange cumulative update, then you have to install this update. So they are doing the prerequisite check for this update now. Else you can go to inside the MSI and remove that prerequisite check. All right. So, but that was for Windows 2016 only we were talking about. Okay. Now the new update is for the modern public folder indexing fixed. So there was some issues with the modern public folder indexing was not working earlier. That has been fixed in this update. But then you have to move that public folder from one database to another database to get it fixed completely. Next update is about the prerequisite.
Prabhat, repeat that again. Wait, what did you say about? I'm a little confused. You have to move the PF mailbox to a different database and then back?
Yeah, you can do that back as well. I mean, so what I said is the update is there was an indexing issue with the public folder mailbox earlier. So that has been fixed with this update. But for that you need to move that public folder mailbox from this database to a different database and then bring it back. Or I mean, you don't need to bring it back, but you can keep it there if you want to.
What happens if it's in a DAG?
Yeah, same thing. You will have multiple databases, right?
So just move it between servers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Servers are different database. That's it. They said different database. After applying CU, move to different database. That's it. So, which is not a big deal, but it's a kind of a big deal, kind of a not big deal. So, it's tough to answer that way. But yeah, that's the solution. Then the next.
And just to clarify, when you say move, you really just mean activate on the other database.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not about the copy. It's about the move into different database. So.
Thanks.
Okay. So next is next update is about the desktop experience thing, which used to be the prerequisite. It is a prerequisite. So rather than installing, they are saying rather than installing desktop experience as a prerequisite, if we can install Media Foundation, it works now with CU4. Applies, but it applies to the new deployment. If you already have it, just keep it there. Why this update has came? Because desktop experience asks for many updates. So to avoid that, you can just install the Media Foundation. But then that's again for the new deployments, not for old. Okay, time zone update is also included. Okay, who will tell me what is OOTW?
OOTW. Anyone know what that is? Question of the month. Someone guessed Outlook on the web.
Yay! All right. Yeah, that's right. So they have done some changes in Outlook on the web. So now within the Outlook on the web compose frame, you will see all the controls. It used to be outside, now it is inside. That's a new change coming. They also released today the cumulative update for Exchange 2013, cumulative update 15 for 2013. Exchange 2010 Service Pack 3 update rollup 16, and Exchange 2007 Service Pack 3 update rollup 22. Oh, this is the update from cumulative update 4. Okay.
But before you go, can you actually go back? We had a question just regarding, someone asked regarding the modern public folders, that indexing issue. When you move the public folder from one database or activate it from one database to another, they were curious whether or not the Active Directory schema is being updated when you switch the modern PF between servers.
Configuration part, right? It will be updated, yes, because that's the configuration which says that where is your mailbox located. So that will be updated, yes. The database name will be updated in that in the schema.
Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know why there's a concern for that.
Well, with the schema itself, they've updated the schema in the block.
I doubt it. Are there any dependencies on schema for this change?
So CU4 is not going to change the schema, Active Directory schema, if that's the question.
That is, thank you.
But think about it. And see, no, that there's no dependency. It's not. It is not going to update the schema. There's no change in schema with CU4, but only if you are already on CU3. But if you are on CU2, then there is an update for which was in the CU3. So CU4 will do the schema update. So I would always say that plan for schema update as well. Run it. Doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt if you run the step precautionarily.
What's one more step?
That's, yeah, prepare schema. That's like you still have to do the AD update. So if you have to do the AD update, you have to consult Active Directory team. Then you have to do some part of it. Just one more step. It doesn't hurt. It's during the change windows. Like you're already doing it. So all right. So next is my reference blogs I have shared. Yeah, I have. Okay, some I had shared when the Exchange 2016 released. Last year I released some blogs. So all you need to know, and then system requirement, then planning and design, then the Active Directory preparation blog, then the installation blog. I have also published the unattended installation commandlet that works well. You don't want to see. Okay, and then connections for more. These are few places you can also connect to me or my groups or my blogs, and you also give me the feedback. And thank you, everyone. That's it for the day.
Thank you very much.